Risk assessment is an essential process that involves the identification, evaluation, and prioritization of risks associated with various activities, projects, or operations. This systematic approach is crucial for ensuring safety, compliance, and effective decision-making across organizational and project contexts. This article provides a detailed overview of how to conduct a thorough risk assessment, including the calculation of residual risk. Before embarking on the risk assessment process, it is vital to comprehend its overall objectives. The primary aims of a risk assessment are to identify potential hazards that could pose risks, evaluate the nature and severity of the risks associated with those hazards, implement effective control measures to mitigate identified risks, calculate residual risks that remain after the application of control measures. The initial step in the risk assessment process involves the meticulous identification of potential hazards. Hazards may encompass a range of categories, including physical, chemical, biological, ergonomic, and psychosocial factors. It is prudent to engage team members and stakeholders in this process to garner diverse insights. Consider utilizing the following methods: conducting thorough workplace inspections, reviewing historical incident reports to identify trends, consulting with subject matter experts to gain a deeper understanding of potential risks. Once hazards have been identified, the subsequent task is to evaluate the associated risks. This evaluation requires consideration of two key aspects: the likelihood of an incident occurring, frequency, the potential severity of the outcome should an incident occur, impact. A widely used method for assessing risks is the risk matrix, which categorizes risks based on their likelihood and severity. Each risk can be assigned a rating on a scale, for example, 1 to 5, where 1 signifies a very unlikely occurrence with minimal impact. 5 indicates a very likely event with catastrophic consequences. After evaluating the risks, it is crucial to select appropriate control measures to mitigate them effectively. The hierarchy of control measures should be adhered to, which includes 1. Elimination, completely removing the hazard from the workplace. 2. Substitution, replacing the hazard with a less dangerous alternative. 3. Engineering controls, implementing physical modifications to reduce exposure to the hazard. 4. Administrative controls, altering work practices and procedures, such as training programs and policy changes. 5. Personal protective equipment, PPE, providing necessary protective gear to minimize exposure risk. Residual risk refers to the level of risk that remains after all control measures have been applied. To compute the residual risk, follow these steps. 1. Identify existing controls, document all the control measures that have been implemented. 2. Re-evaluate the risk, assess the likelihood and severity of the risk after the controls have been put in place, using the same scale as previously established. 3. Calculate residual risk, employ the following formula: residual risk equals likelihood after controls multiplied by severity after controls. It is imperative to thoroughly document all findings from the risk assessment process. This documentation should encompass a comprehensive description of the identified hazards, a detailed risk evaluation along with the reasoning behind the assessments, a list of control measures that have been implemented, the calculated residual risks for each identified hazard. Such documentation serves not only as a record for compliance purposes but also as a valuable resource for future reference and audits. Risk assessment is not a static process, it requires regular reviews and updates to ensure its ongoing relevance and effectiveness. Regular evaluations should focus on ensuring that the risk assessment remains aligned with current operations and practices, identifying any new hazards that may emerge over time, updating control measures based on changes in legislation, industry standards, or best practices. Conducting a thorough risk assessment is paramount for maintaining a safe, compliant, and efficient working environment. By systematically identifying hazards, evaluating risks, implementing control measures, and calculating residual risks, organizations can effectively manage potential dangers. Regular reviews and updates to the risk assessment will further enhance safety and compliance within the workplace, ensuring that both employees and stakeholders are protected from harm.